Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a great day. It is a beautiful day. It is, what is it, Thursday? It's Thursday. Yes,
Thursday. It's
it's
Friday for
Thursday.
me. I'm off tomorrow, so
Oh, nice. I'm not, damn it. But I am going to a concert later, so I'm excited about that.
oh, cool.
I am joined by Ryan Fries from League of Sales Engineers. We did an awesome video a few weeks back. I had a great time. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's a little bit more on kind of my end of stuff on kind of sales and recruiting and things like that. Today, I really wanted to talk to Ryan, the other Ryan, about sales engineering and just kind of breaking it all down. You know, this is a big growing area. I know a lot of people are interested in getting into it and would love, you've been doing this for a while. You've been very successful with it and would love to just pick your brain.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. So Ryan, I'd love to hear first off, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey everyone. If you haven't checked out my channel, nice to see you all. Definitely check it out. So name, as Ryan mentioned, we should make this a drinking game. Every time we say Ryan, you have to take a
Yeah,
shot.
right.
By the end of the video, everyone's going to be,
Like, what?
completely drunk. But yeah, at least it'll be a fun video. I live in South Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida. Really got started into tech sales by luck, as a lot of people do. Like, I didn't know about tech sales. I didn't even know what a sales engineer was. Just knew I wanted to get into something that had to do with technology and computers, and originally thought I was going to be a software engineer. Realized I hated that. Did an internship. It was very quiet. No one talked. Heads deep into coding. Just was not my thing. So I actually ended up working a year as a business analyst, again by luck. Did enjoy that, but that was getting a little dried up and I was starting to get bored in my position there, and got into what's called a new hire training program where I actually got trained to either be a consultant or a sales engineer. So I fell in love with sales from the get-go. As soon as I learned about it, just really resonated with me. If any of you know about like the DISC personality tests, I'm a strong S, which means I get my fulfillment from my team, from people. And by the way, I'm an introvert, but I still get fulfillment from people. I just like my alone time as well following the work day. And so I just realized like relationship building, doing demos, still being technical, but having the sales aspect just really resonated with me. And, almost 10 years later, still in tech sales now, work as a senior sales engineer for a company called IDME, which a lot of you will probably be familiar with because we have about a third of the US population as customers today. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So, yeah, nice to be here and nice to share my story with everyone.
That's awesome. So, I mean, what is it you like most about sales engineering?
Ooh, what do I like most? Uh, so it's funny. I wouldn't say I get this question a lot, but I think a lot of people are curious. Like, sales engineering is a unique role in that you're both sales focused and you're engineering focused.
Yeah.
And an interview question I really like when it comes to applying for an SE job is, are you a bigger S or a bigger E? And basically what they're asking is, do you like the sales aspect more? Are you more like a salesperson, or are you more of an engineer? For me, I would put myself probably like 60-40. Like, I definitely like the sales aspect a little bit more. And I think what I enjoy about being a sales engineer, aside from the high salary, which always helps, is the teamwork, relationship building. Sales itself is a team sport. It's nice to close those big deals, but it's better to close those big deals as a team and like, bringing each other up, congratulating each other as a team. So I'd say that's like where I get a lot of my fulfillment, is just working as a team, working with nice customers that I get along with, becoming friends with customers. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, in that every week's a little different. I get bored quick. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur as well. So if I'm not constantly being challenged and growing and learning, like, I move on to the next thing. So that's one of the things I like about being an SE, is that you are challenged every single day, new opportunities, new use cases. So that just makes the job more fun as well.
Right on. Okay. I like how you said that. I feel like that's a very good interview prep for people who might check in, like, hey, if they get that kind of question, be prepared for it and how to answer.
To be honest, because they're not, at least from my perspective, a hiring manager isn't looking for necessarily one thing over the other. They just want to know where you would fit within their team.
Yeah.
Like, are you more going to be the tech person that when really technical solutions come up, you'd be put on that op? Or are you more so building relationships if they want somebody stronger on the sales side? So typically they just want to know where you would fit within the team. So there's not a right answer to that. It's what you resonate with. So like just be transparent, be yourself. I'd say that's probably the biggest tip I would give there.
Okay. What is like a usual day to day in kind of the average life?
Oh man, there's no day to day.
Oh, it's always changed.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
every day changes. So most people know of sales engineers as the individuals that give the product demos, which is definitely a big part of the role of being an SE is to do product demonstrations, walking the customer through what your solution could look like in their environment. We do a lot of that, but there's so many more aspects. Like I do training for my sales team. I work on proposals. So like sometimes big companies, they'll do what's called a request for proposal where they're submitting what they need to a bunch of different vendors and they're looking for responses. And as sales engineers, especially as you become more senior level, you're responsible for owning those. So I do a lot of those. I work with channel partnerships. So I'm building alliances with other vendors on how we could go to market together. I'm traveling sometimes. Some weeks I'm just answering a lot of technical questions. I might be developing like product marketing some weeks. So literally that's why I'm saying like everyone sees a SE as the demo warrior, which is a big part, but depending on the company you work for, especially if it's a smaller company where you have to wear multiple hats, you're doing all sorts of things. And that's what I like about it too. So if you ever want to like get exposure to different aspects of the business, you have that opportunity.
How can somebody, because I feel like you came in at a really good time, and I'm the same way. I kind of came in before it was called tech sales, it was just sales.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's
Just
like
sales.
kind of
Yeah.
been this like whole other area. How do you think somebody right nowadays, if they were just getting started, who can kind of jump into this and how can they do it?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a hard question too. So it depends. It's going to depend initially on your own personal work experience and background. So some people naturally have like a strong background in healthcare or a strong background in financial services, in which case, if you've worked in financial services for 10 years, it may be easier for you to make a transition into a tech sales company that sells into that vertical because you have that industry knowledge. And that industry knowledge is, very desirable by these companies because you can provide perspectives as a customer because you are on that side. So for those individuals, sometimes just applying for tech sales companies that sell into a vertical you currently work at, that's definitely something that's valuable. Specifically for people that are looking to get into sales engineering, the tech side's probably like the hardest part to prepare for when applying for jobs because there's so much technology out there. And if you're applying to a bunch of SE positions, like the technology you may have learned through your own self-study versus the technology that the vendor supports, the organization supports that you're applying to might be completely different because there's literally thousands of different types of technology out there. So what I always say is focus on the foundational aspects of tech sales and a sales engineer. Focus on how do you deliver a solid demo, understanding the sales cycle. What does that process look like? How would you work with your account executive? And where are those like parallels? And then where are those overlaps in which you'd work together on a team to close a sale? So if you can like, and then also your interview preparation, that type of stuff, like focus on that too, and building up your resume, because at the end of the day, like an interview is just selling yourself. And if you can do a solid product demo, you understand sharing value, not features, understanding how the sales cycle works, like you should be able to ace an interview. And the tech just comes later. If the hiring manager likes you, they'll train you on the technology. So I would focus less on the tech, more on the soft skills, and like just understanding what a sales engineer does.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. By the way, I just launched the new website, Resume to Offer. It's the new
Okay.
just this morning. And my
Yeah, nice.
fiance is the first one to see it, and she was laughing because there's a photo of me that's maybe a little too old that I use, but
Is it
anyway,
resume to
it's
offer.com?
resume two is in the number two, resume to offer.com.
Okay.
And the reason I bring that up is every once
Going
in a
to it
while
right now.
interview or stuff. It's good interview prep. And if you guys want League of Sales Engineers, of course, we're going to link it in the description. Check out all this stuff to kind of, I feel like if you get both those things, I can help you guys on mock interviews and interview prep. Other Ryan can definitely help you with everything else and kind of getting ready for that. There's some great tips you've had. One of which you mentioned you've been a business analyst or you were training for a business analyst. When you're doing this with your day-to-day, is there certain metrics that you're looking for that, certain things that you've seen those patterns in sales engineering, those metrics that you're targeting? Is there a few of those that you can kind of like reveal?
You mean like KPIs?
Kind of KPIs, but I feel like for every salesperson, we have our company ones and then we have our personal ones. We have ones that we figure out on our own. And I guess, have you found that kind of same thing?
Yeah, I would say so. For me, I just kind of do what I like. So if there's something that more resonates with me and something that I want to strive forward with in my company and like make a path for myself that doesn't currently exist, that's where I'll focus on. And it's typically something that would hopefully bring value to the business, because if you're doing something that isn't bringing a lot of value to the business, even if it's like cutting edge and cool, like it doesn't really matter because it doesn't align with the business needs. So for me personally, I'll try to do things that my peers aren't doing that I'm interested in. So like an example would be I actually just had a call earlier with my CEO and I mentioned channel partnerships. I'm getting my company listed on a bunch of different channel vendor marketplaces, and I'm going to be doing internal sales trainings to my sales team to prep them on how to position these solutions together.
Nice.
We don't do a lot of that today. And so my CEO, when I positioned this and I wanted to get his feedback, he's like, dude, this is awesome. Like, we need to do more of this. We're lacking in this area, especially he even mentioned consumer facing. So maybe that's what I do next, is creating some consumer facing content. So yeah, for me, I like metric myself more so on like, is this stuff I'm interested in? Does it bring value to the business? Is it out of the norm of my day-to-day of what's expected from me? Because that's what is going to make you stand out for those promotions compared to your peers. And it's not like it's a competition with your peers, but yeah, of course you always want to stand out, like at the end of the day.
Definitely.
So that's specific to me. KPIs are a big one too. I don't set KPIs for myself. I just try to do I just work hard and do above and beyond.
Gotcha. Okay. You mentioning sales training, training your sales team. What would you say are the biggest, when you see your different salespeople, what are the biggest common denominators or 2 to 3 things they need to work on to be better?
So from a personal perspective, bringing your sales engineer into the call and conversation earlier on in the sales cycle definitely helps. We just provide different values. So an account executive is there to drive value from the business perspective and handling negotiation, any legal requirements for, contracting for your prospective customer to actually become a customer. From a sales engineering perspective, you're there to be the technical liaison and to help them from the technical perspective. So I'd say like for account executives and even for sales engineers, the focus should be, how do you drive value to the business of what your customer is looking for? That's like the focus 100%. I think too many times we get into this roadblock of putting it on us and like thinking about what we like to show versus what the customer needs to see. So rather than just showing them everything, you need to really understand the customer first and just demonstrate and articulate how you can solve for those business needs and just focus on that. I'd say that's probably like the biggest thing. But from an AE to SE perspective, have calls before any sort of demo or discovery with your SE, if any AEs are listening on this. Bring us in earlier in the conversation and don't promise anything technical. Let us do that. I see that all the time too.
Gotcha. Okay. What is it? What would you say an average sales cycle is for kind of like, your deals?
Uh, you mean like timeline or?
More timeline, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it varies. So I cover everything from retail to healthcare to SLED and Fed opportunities. So the bigger the opportunity, typically the longer the sales cycle. A 2 to 3 month sales cycle is not abnormal.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, if you're not familiar with the sales cycle, typically it's qualification, discovery, demo, negotiation, and then like grooming the customer relationship. So that's typically handled by your customer success team. So the steps vary and like the timeline varies depending on the deal size, the urgency of the customer. Is there a compelling event versus a critical event? There's a lot of aspects that go into it, but I would say, I don't know, probably a few months on average, I would say.
Okay. So how many to make a get a deal, and this is more of a basic question for people who might be just chiming in. Like, what is the basic participants in the sales cycle? Like, who are they? What is their kind of role, and where do you fit in?
So on your company side, like let's say you're in tech sales, on the sales team side, typically you'd have that initial qualifier, which is going to be your sales development rep, your business development rep. Once they qualify the lead, that typically gets handed off to the account executive or sales executive, depending on the title of the company. They will typically handle the discovery call. They should involve the sales engineer on that discovery. So then the sales engineer gets involved at that point. Then it goes into demo stage, which is the sales engineer plus the account executive. Then it goes into negotiation, which sometimes you bring in sales ops for that. You bring in legal because there's usually some sort of NDA that's required. So non-disclosure agreement. There's typically some sort of like negotiation that requires some sort of legal contracting. So legal is typically always involved. And then once they actually submit a purchase order, then you involve the customer success team and you hand off the customer to customer success to manage the existing customer relationships. On the customer side, it depends. It depends on the vertical, depends on what you're selling to. Like you might be selling to marketing, you might be selling to IT, might be selling to developers. So it really depends on the customer side who's involved in the actual sales process. Does that answer the question?
That was a great way of just showing the flow. And it's kind
Yeah.
of it's true because it's like, I don't some of the stuff keeps changing, I feel like every 3 months. Um,
Yeah.
like I had a friend who was an account executive and we went on a bike ride and now he's a customer success manager.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? When did that happen? Um, I
Well,
guess,
so much of that is transferable too. So
yeah.
for those of you who are listening, like there's a lot more to tech sales than just AEs and SEs. Like there's so many other positions that are out there that you can look for if you're trying to land a role in tech sales. And there's entry level positions across all those. Besides SDR and BDR, I've seen associate sales engineers, customer success associates. So there's other like entry level positions besides traditional tech sales that people think of that you could potentially land into first to get exposure.
A common thing I keep seeing is a lot of people that keep calling me are kind of like they're looking for just that basic SDR role, and I'd say
Mhm.
80% of the calls are just for that, and they don't
Yeah.
realize there's so much other stuff on the other side, and there's less competition to kind of get into too.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
just
because
that
people
SDR
don't
that
know
you can
about
land
them as
first.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say for kind of like interview prep or finding a job? Any tips on that end besides the usual like just job application?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's all going to start with your resume first. So go to my guy Ryan here for tips on that. So the way I always say with the resume is just so you get looked at and you can land that interview. So having a polished resume is to just help you get the interview. Once you get the interview, now you have to sell yourself. The biggest thing I would say, like when you get the actual interview, is you want to stand out from other applicants that are also interviewing. And I've never been a hiring manager, but I've interviewed a bunch of people with my hiring manager. And so many of them just like regurgitate their resume and it's uninteresting and it's boring. Do something that makes you memorable compared to other people. Like when I ask you, tell me about yourself, like tell me about yourself, like tell me your hobbies, your interests, like why are you looking to get into this position? Do you have maybe share your family? Like I want to know about you first. I want to create that human to human relationship. And then naturally, I'll ask you about your work experience. I mean, I have your resume right in front of me. I know your work experience. So share things outside of that first, then get into that work experience, and then practice how you're going to share your work experience and how it translates to the role you're applying to. And then lastly, what I would say is you're almost always going to be asked some sort of behavioral type question. Go unprepared for that. You're going to be asked, tell me about a time when you dealt with a difficult customer or a difficult employee and how you're able to overcome that. Happens every interview. So go in prepared on how to respond to that, and like keep it short and concise, 2 to 3 minutes, but have a compelling story and know how to respond to that. That's something I would say a lot of people don't have good responses to. And literally, I have like the same response I use every single time because the question comes up every interview. So just go unprepared, knowing that that type of question will always come up.
I feel a lot of this stuff is so transferable to just sales in general. It's like the idea of preparing your objections. These certain questions are coming. You're doing a demo, right? You're not just reading your demo. You're not reading the PowerPoint slides if you're using PowerPoint. You're actually like, you're doing other things to be memorable, to stand out, that also align to their interests. It's very similar.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interview selling, you're selling yourself. So,
Exactly.
and also like to that point too, the hiring manager is going to be working with you and spending more time with you sometimes than even their own family. So if they like you, it's really hard for them to not want to hire you if they like you as a human being. Even if you don't meet all the qualifications, I would probably choose somebody I really liked that could potentially be trained, maybe even if it takes them another month compared to somebody that I was like kind of about, but like has all the qualifications, because I know you're going to be reporting to me. I want to have fun in my job too as a hiring manager. So like the likability factor is so important that I think people just don't give enough attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sales 101, sell yourself first. And part of some of the people I talk to, I tell them that on that first recruiter call, like ask a little bit more on the company culture, the team
Yeah.
what is the synergy of the team? What do they like to do? Find out a little of those tidbits, and you can kind of bring that to the table when you're doing the real interview, the big one.
Yeah. And go unprepared with questions because
Yep.
they always ask at the end, do you have questions for me? And if you just say, oh, no, I'm good. I
I'm
don't have
good.
any questions. Like, no, don't do that. Like, go unprepared. It's so funny. Like nowadays, if you're unsure of like what questions to ask, I mean, you could just go to ChatGPT and say, what questions should I ask for my sales engineering interview coming up? And I'm sure it'll spew you a list of questions you could ask if any of you are unsure.
You can use that. I mean, ChatGPT, that's a whole other conversation we can bring up. Oh man, that's gonna be game changers in a lot of ways. Yeah, I always say don't ask too many, respect the person's time. Be aware that they're trying to end usually 10 minutes before that, kind of the next hour, because then we're prepared for their next meeting. So be aware of the time instead of like, I got more questions and then you go overtime. It's gonna leave it
Yeah.
sometimes, not all the time, but bad taste in the mouth of like, darn it. So if you're running out of time, keep it 1 or 2. If you have a little bit more, keep maybe like 3 or 4 is appropriate, totally appropriate.
Or be
Yeah.
cognizant. Like what I say too, and I've done this before, saying like, hey, like I know we only have 5 minutes left. I do have some more questions, but I want to be like, I want to be comfortable and like comfortable, but like I want to be aware of your time and respect your time. You know, because you only have 5 minutes, I wanted to see, can you go a little bit over? Like, do you want to stop in the next 5 minutes? If so, can we talk about next steps of what I should expect? And like, just be aware, because we do that in sales too with customers, is we're constantly tracking the time. If we have 30 minutes allotted with that customer, like, and we have 5 minutes to go, we know that's where we have to stop it. Let's talk through next steps. And whether that's like setting up another meeting, sending some collateral, like just always be cognizant of time. It just will make you look more professional to the hiring manager.
Yeah, because that's what they care about. So you have to care about it too.
Yep.
What do you think? What's the difference between an average sales engineer and a super duper successful sales engineer?
Yeah, good question. Curiosity
I
is a
do a
big
lot of
one.
hiring, so
Yeah, I'd say curiosity is a big one. So are you just like a naturally inquisitive, curious person? I like to ask questions like a 5-year-old. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm also not afraid to push back. Like if I feel like I'm really in a respectful way, like don't push back and say, no, you're wrong. But if somebody like was a like question something you're doing and you have a strong belief saying, hey, this is my thought process. Let's talk through, does this make sense or does your solution make sense? Um, but yeah, being naturally curious, asking a lot of questions. That's a big one that I see that really like rock star sales engineers are always asking questions and they're not afraid to ask questions. So that's a big one. Your, I'd say another one is like your ability to be adaptable because you're working with a bunch of different personalities across your sales team, across product, as well as across customers. So being able to adapt to different selling styles, different personalities that you might be dealing with customers. That's something that I see the really like A+ sales engineers do is they can adapt accordingly to the account executive, especially. And then the third one I would say um, is just like hard work and grit. Like, don't after 9 to 5, we're in tech sales. Like, sometimes you work above 9 to 5. So don't be afraid to have to put in extra hours if you're working on an initiative or a big, customer opportunity. It's pretty rare when we work like more than 40 hours a week. We have a really good work-life balance as a tech sales in most tech sales professions. But know when those moments are needed, like be willing to put in the work, be willing to evangelize new ideas, new demos, new whatever. Hard work goes a long way as well. And it gets recognized eventually for sure.
what would you say? What are some great techniques that you've used, not in sales engineering, but just in kind of like professional business practices? For example, I'm a big believer in the Pomodoro method. Of doing like segment timing and doing like sprinting that way so I can get more stuff done. Do you have
Mhm.
anything like that that just you can use it in any regards?
I I'm not that creative.
Oh,
Where,
I
where,
bet you are.
well, so I'd say like for me personally, so one thing I'm not really great at is attention to detail.
Mm,
That's one thing I've had to work on harder than I think other people because like I'm really good with customers. I get really passionate about working with people and creating new ideas and being creative. But when it comes to like keeping track of submitting my notes for a call or taking notes during a call, or even like sometimes I'll forget to change a customer's name when I send an email. Like those are stuff I've done in the past, which I realize that's like my Achilles heel. I'm just not a very attention oriented person or detail oriented person. So one thing I've had to do is leverage tools and technology to help support that. So like I'll color code my calendar so I know these calls are the important calls. These ones are internal. This is admin time. I'll use tags in my email so I can like categorize in folders where the important emails go, where the less important emails go. So I do little things like that to try and like keep my focus on what's more critical for that week. So that's helped me a lot. I'd say like my superpower is just the ability to connect with my colleagues. Like I set up tons of one-on-one coffee chats with people just because I naturally like people and I want to get to know my colleagues. And it's amazing how even as years progress and you leave the company and they leave the company, because you built all those relationships, that comes like tenfold down the future. You never know when you're going to get a referral, you're going to get to refer them. So like just like be someone other people want to work with. That's my biggest advice you can give is just like be someone wants to be around, someone wants to work with, be helpful to them, and then most people tend to return that favor.
everybody should be listening up on that great nugget of information. Okay, definitely can attest to that. Um, is there anything that you wish you would have known when you started this whole journey to, it's kind of like, that type of question, but like, what do you wish you would have known back in the day?
Mm. That's a hard one because every mistake I've made, I don't even consider a mistake. It's just a learning experience, right? And I've made plenty of mistakes throughout my career. I would say probably like from a career trajectory standpoint, I've never been the type to really self-advocate myself, especially in the beginning of my career, thinking as almost like show offy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's amazing as you're making accomplishments and you're succeeding with certain deals, certain initiatives, you have to self-advocate yourself. If people don't know what you're doing, they're not going to give you that credit. They're not going to see what you're doing. So I'd say that was probably a big one. I've had to learn how to do that tactfully to not like almost come off as pompous, like, oh, look at all these things Ryan's doing. Like, you don't want to do that, but you do want to share some of the accomplishments and some of the like cool activities you're doing within your company to drive value. So I'd say that's probably the biggest one I've had to like slowly realize I've had to do more of in order to get those promotions, get the pay raises, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think it's a good balance. You have to make sure to be able to do your own personal elevator pitch, but at the same time make sure you deliver. Because in the tech world, it's a little unforgiving if you kind of, you know, bullshit your way. You're gonna get found out very quickly. So make sure it's in line with things that you can actually do. This has come up a lot in I've gotten a lot of people asking me about certifications, boot camps. You know, what are the hacks that we can use to kind of get
I
there?
mean, I'm a great person to answer boot camps. I'm
There
an
you
instructor at
please.
boot camp.
Yeah,
So is the question more so like, are they worth it? Should I go through it?
all of the above. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a strong belief on product certifications. I actually created a YouTube video on certifications if anyone is curious for the extended response. My takeaway for certifications is they're nice to have, not a need to have. They help boost a resume to help you land that initial interview, but they're not what's going to sell you to land the job. They'll maybe help you get the interview to get the job because if I'm a hiring manager and I send over criteria that I want for a candidate, a certification might be on that. And if you have that certification they're looking for, recruiter might say, oh, you know, Ryan's a good fit. He's got this certification that this hiring manager is looking for. So that's kind of like my takeaway. They're a nice to have, not a need to have. They wouldn't be my focus if I'm trying to get into tech sales. But if I have time and I want to work on getting certifications over time and that's something I'm interested in, absolutely do it. Just like a college degree. I feel like a college degree isn't necessary nowadays, but if you want to go through it, get a college degree, like it helps. It helps boost your resume. Some companies still look for degrees. So it's a nice to have, not necessarily a need to have in tech sales nowadays.
Yeah. Is there any certification specific to sales engineering that people should keep an eye out for?
Not really. Again, I would say focus on things you're interested in. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, you might go for like a more generalist, like CompTIA Security Plus cert. If you're interested in cloud, you might go for like an Azure Fundamentals, or I think AWS has like a solutions architect, like intro type certification. If you're interested in networking, there's some like general networking certifications, or maybe you're interested in a specific vendor and you want to get Salesforce certified or Microsoft certified. Like it's whatever you're interested in, I think go for it. There's not one that's better than the other, in my opinion, because it really depends on the company you're applying for. Of course, if you have a Salesforce cert and you're applying to Salesforce, that's going to be better than you having an Amazon cert and applying to Salesforce. So you just
Yes.
have to be like aware of like what you're interested in, what you want to apply for. So I'd focus on that. I don't know, I could talk about boot camps if you want me to
Sure.
transition.
Any boot camps that you think are beneficial? I was
Yeah,
gonna
so
make you careerist in a bit, but I I didn't.
yeah. So I'm an instructor for careerists. I have been for about 10 months. I think it's a great program. It's an expensive program. Most boot camps are expensive, but I mean, expensive is relative. It's a lot cheaper than a college degree. But what I will say is a lot of these boot camps are extremely well designed to help accelerate you getting into a new career. whether that's like a software engineering boot camp where you're learning Python, or a tech sales boot camp like from Course Careers, their careers, like all those things I think will help accelerate you, because you're going to get one-on-one time with a mentor. You'll get FaceTime with a live instructor that's been in the industry for 10 plus years, and you will gain the skill set. I mean, we have students that land jobs sometimes before they even graduate, but then we have some other students where it takes them a year or sometimes over a year before they land a job in tech sales. So it's not like a magic pill where you're automatically going to get a job if you take a boot camp. But if you're really, really eager and you want to accelerate that process versus watching YouTube videos and all the disjointness that's out there, it'll definitely help. It'll help point you towards that path 100%. But there is a price tag associated with that. So be cognizant of that.
And I would say I was kind of talking to a few friends about this, where it's like, I don't think you need to wait till you graduate a boot camp to start the job search or start looking. You can start right now and go through that process of going through these boot camps. And I think it's better on a resume that, hey, I'm actually in process of doing this.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they give you the job. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my approach too, is that's what I tell my students is why wait? Like, especially those who come in with already experience in a specific industry. I mean, we get all sorts of different backgrounds. I've worked with truck drivers, teachers, individual nurses, sales development reps that want to transition to sales engineering, all sorts of different backgrounds. And if you have a background and a extensive experience in a specific field, like, you could put careerist or whatever boot camp you're going for on your resume right away and just explain that, like, hey, like, I'm so eager and interested in this that I'm giving my time, my money towards something that's going to prep me to be successful in this role. This is, again, if I'm a hiring manager and I'm interviewing somebody that has like an engineering degree versus a boot camp that's specialized in tech sales, I'm probably going to be more interested in the tech sales boot camp, because you are specialized in what you'll be doing in a day-to-day. What you learned in an engineering degree in a 4-year university, I went through it. Most of it isn't transferable. The boot camps are, because they're the curriculum's developed by sales engineers, tech sales professionals, so they know what you need in order to be successful in the role. Again, not a magic pill, but it is good exposure. I will plug myself too. So I do have, like, it's not a replacement for a boot camp, but I do have a Udemy course. It's 6 hours on sales engineering, tech sales. So if you want to check that out, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm letting everybody know, and you can hold me accountable. I will be watching that. I'll pay for it. I'm watching it. Yeah, I would love to kind of like hear all the other stuff we haven't talked about on this call.
Yeah, it's all SE related. How to demo, how to whiteboard, what a proof of concept, an RFP, like all that good stuff. Also some interview and resume tips.
Awesome. That sounds perfect.
And it's like $15. It's stupid cheap.
But it's still good. It's still, hey, every nugget of information is just another asset you can use.
Yeah. And for me, I'm just passionate about the subject. Like, I came from lower middle income upbringing. So I always remember when I was in college, I'm like, man, if I just make 70 grand a year, like, I made it for the rest of my life. And I would have never imagined where I'm at today. So if I can return the favor to other people that are trying to better their lives, get into a profession that you actually get excited about, like, that just brings me a lot of fulfillment. So I want to keep the price low, the knowledge good, just to help people as well.
Thank you. Of course, I appreciate it, but I'm sure everybody else listening appreciates it too. And me and Ryan, other Ryan, have been talking a few times now, and I could tell that Ryan is very authentic, real deal. Definitely recommend checking out his channel as well as his course. I'm going to be doing the same thing. So I hopefully by the next time we talk, I'll probably have gone through it and pick your brain a little bit more there. Well,
I'll give you a coupon code. So
no, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Everybody's gonna be asking now. I guess also I was curious about the future, and it's a loaded question. It's the future of tech and sales engineering, because sales engineering it's more relatively new in the last few years. And I guess, where do you think it's headed? what can people do with it, as well as just, I guess, the future of tech in general?
Yeah, this is a common reoccurring theme specifically to artificial intelligence, and like everyone's scared that AI is going to replace the need for tech. I made when I created my Udemy course, I actually made a funny LinkedIn ad that had an image that showed like that AI is replacing software engineers, but sales engineers are selling AI. So I personally see like tech sales continuing to grow. I could see AI displacing some need for software engineers because it's amazing. Like even ChatGPT, like you could actually write it to have it write a PowerShell script. You can have it convert code for you, and it's not perfect, but it saves you a heck of a lot of time as a software engineer. So maybe what normally took 4 people to write something, write a program for the company now is a 2-person job because they're supplemented by this new technology that's coming out there. But again, I think sales engineers, the human to human aspect of selling is going to remain the same. And if anything, it's going to continue to grow, maybe mold a little bit. But I also think the selling motion's changing a little bit in general to more self-serve. I think as marketplaces are continuing to grow, especially cloud marketplaces, a lot of companies nowadays don't even want to talk to a salesperson sometimes, and they'll just transact directly through a marketplace. So I'm seeing that as like a new trend as well. Again, I don't think that's going to displace the need for tech sales professionals, AEs, SEs, SDRs, but I think it's just a new selling motion that's happening more so now than what's happened in the last 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, besides AI, is there any other types of like kind of sub industries that people should kind of like think about?
I mean, I think security is always going to be here. So if anyone's ever worried about like, hey, is this technology going to go away? I don't think cybersecurity will ever go away.
Yeah,
I do
great.
think I think the public cloud is here to stay. I'm a little wary of the public cloud for people who want to become SEs because the concept of the cloud is to make it really easy. And if it's so easy, do you need a sales engineer? You might need an account executive, but do you need a sales engineer to explain the technology if it's super easy as they're claiming it's going to be? So I'm a little wary of that. Some other like evolving technologies I'm seeing, I mean, cybersecurity is the biggest. I'm seeing a big push towards like automation outside of artificial intelligence. Like there's a bunch of automation platforms and how to automate processes, big data, being able to understand all the data that's traversing through companies is another area I'm seeing a lot of growth in. So, I mean, if it was me personally, I'd focus cybersecurity, but maybe I'm biased because I work for an identity
I'm the
verification
same
company.
way.
Yeah.
I
I,
work for a cyber
I
firm,
mean, I've
so
talked with, I have a bunch of friends in this space and they're all going the cybersecurity route as well. And it just makes sense. Like everything's becoming tech related. So you need security for everything. So it's just a really growing segment.
yeah, right on. Well, this has been very useful. God, I don't know if I have too many other questions. I guess, is there any other advice or any other things that you think might be beneficial to somebody, hey, they want to get into the space, they're looking to kind of jump in, any other things?
Make connections, talk with people that are already in the industry. If you want to learn more, continue to consume content like this. There's a lot of great stuff out there. That's probably a big one. And don't give up. Like rejections are going to come.
Yeah.
Learn from those rejections. Don't let that demoralize you. As someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, I still get rejections. It's okay. Sometimes it takes time to find that perfect job. And sometimes that quote unquote perfect job ends up not being a perfect job. That's okay too. Um, but yeah, just have a lot of patience, grit, be hungry, learn a lot, grow in yourself, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Oh, definitely, definitely. For everyone, I'll definitely include Ryan's information in the description so you can find all his content. Definitely recommend it. And also, I just launched the resume to offer.com, so feel free to check that out and let me know your thoughts. I'm open to
It looks
feedback.
good. I'm
Yeah.
looking at it
Is
right
it
now.
good? Okay. You're looking at it. Oh, man.
Did you build that on WordPress or?
Just Wix. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it looks
Wix
really
does
good.
it pretty fast, which I enjoy because obviously our time is money and our time is precious. So they did I don't know, a really good job. It just took me, I don't know, like 3 hours, maybe I'd say. Yeah.
Wow. So go to
This
Ryan
isn't a plug for Wix, but yeah, it's not bad.
if you need Wix help, go to
Wix,
other
let me
Ryan.
know. Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you again. This has been very enjoyable and
Yeah,
insightful.
yeah, appreciate it.
I definitely want to do some more kind of in the near future. I'm going to go through your course first. But yeah, thanks again for joining us. And thank you for all you do.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And yeah, let me know. Even if you didn't like it, give me a 5-star.
There you go. All right, brother.
All right, catch you
I
later.
guess I'll